My name is Colleen Stewart. Welcome, everyone. I'm the communications coordinator for the New Hampshire Food Alliance. You have arrived at the right place if you are looking for our March Network Cafe, which is part of our 2022-2023 Network Cafe series. I'm going to run through some stuff before we get really into our agenda for the day, just to get us grounded in what we're going to talk about, and also who we are, if those of you are new to the New Hampshire Food Alliance, into our Network Cafe series. The New Hampshire Food Alliance is a statewide network coordinated by the Sustainability Institute at UNH, and we work to engage and connect people, businesses, and organizations dedicated to growing a thriving, fair, and sustainable local food system here in New Hampshire. And I want to acknowledge, as a part of UNH and a part of our food system, our work here, when we gather together as a food system, we always want to make sure our space is welcoming and safe for all, for everyone. So we share in the university's belief that diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion are foundational and inextricably linked to achieving our core educational mission and embracing the many characteristics of our community members that make them uniquely themselves. We are also a land grant university, the University of New Hampshire, so we always acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection the Pennacook, Abenaki, Wabanaki peoples have maintained to Indakina, which is homeland, where the University of New Hampshire community is honored to steward that land today. So if anyone's interested in the full DEI statement and the full land acknowledgement of the university, you're welcome to take a look at that in our agenda. Another thing to point you towards, in the spirit of creating a welcoming space for everyone, I'd love for everyone to take a look at our community agreements if you haven't yet before. That document will let you know what you can expect from this time together at our Network Cafe, and also what we expect from all attendees and facilitators and guests as participants. So if you have any questions or thoughts on that community agreement, please let us know, and we can chat about it. Specifically about today's topic and what you can expect our desired outcomes within our agenda, we'll give you a pretty good picture of what we're planning to discuss and hoping to get out of our both presentation and discussion for the day. And those outcomes will kind of help you as you take our Network Cafe evaluation at the end of the session. So take a look at those and be prepared to take that evaluation towards the end of our time together. Finally, please feel free to use the chat. I see people are welcoming themselves and where they're coming from in the chat, which is great, but feel free to use it as a place to make comments, share ideas and resources, and as well as ask questions that we'll get to in the later portion of our cafe. Okay, so for today, we are coming here together for a Network Cafe. For those of you who are new to our Network Cafe series, we have these every month. They're an hour, and they generally are kind of a casual discussion about a food system issue. But this year, we are specifically tackling the topic of building a climate resilient food system. That's what all of our Network Cafes this year have been about. And that focus was based on a framework called 6 Ways That Sustainable Food Systems Build Climate Resilience, that our climate action team developed. And we developed this in order to help us articulate how a strong local food system can help our communities adapt and thrive to climate change. So today we're zeroing in on our 5th way, which is embracing efficient and renewable farm and food chain energy. We recognize that supporting our farm and food businesses in these efforts to transition to efficient energy or create renewable energy on their farms or in their food businesses will not only help us reduce our greenhouse gases as a food system, but also foster viability for our farm and food businesses with lower energy costs. Hopefully, that's the goal. So I am certainly not the expert on any of that. So we've invited today Sarah Waring, who's the state director for Vermont and New Hampshire at USDA Rural Development. She's going to be speaking about their Rural Energy for America, or REAP program. And that program, just quickly, and I'll let her get into all the good details, is a guaranteed loan and financing and grant funding program designed for agricultural producers and rural small businesses to install renewable energy systems or make energy efficiency improvements. So I'm going to stop talking and let Sarah get her presentation up and get started.
Sure. Thanks so much, Colleen, and thanks, Nicole, and thanks to all of you. It's lovely to see a few faces and names that I recognize. Charlene and Josh and Scott and a couple others. Kyle. Also exciting that a couple folks are calling in from Canada and Texas. Welcome, welcome. Before I show my slides, I just want to say how exciting it is also to see or to read and see so many names that I don't know, because a big part of what I'm trying to do this year is to get the word out to folks who are not as familiar with our programs. So my name is Sarah Waring. I am the state director for USDA Rural Development for Vermont and New Hampshire. USDA is huge. I see one of our NRCS colleagues is here today. We do everything from fighting wildfires and managing timber harvests to food stamps, to clean and renewable energy, to farm service agency loans, to crop insurance. It's huge. We are the second largest domestic agency in the federal government. So it doesn't count the military, but second largest after the Postal Service. So just think of us as like your friendly neighborhood federal agency. There are a lot of us in Vermont and New Hampshire. We are also huge. Rural development in particular is huge in terms of our portfolio of lending. We are something like the 13th largest bank in the country. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about one of the programs that we have, but I will also say that if you are interested in more information about the Inflation Reduction Act, which has a particular focus on reducing costs and carbon emissions through clean and renewable and energy efficiency technologies, I can go a little bit into that during our Q&A period as well. Okay, so I don't have too many slides, I promise. I don't love too many slides. I like to talk. But these slides have a little bit about rural development here locally, a little bit more about the actual REAP program, including activities and eligibility and some of the new changes under the Inflation Reduction Act, some basic sort of application tips and information, and then 2 examples of projects at the end of the slideshow. What I will say is that we will send these slides out to all of you and make them available through Colleen and Nicole, but I have to make sure they're 508 compliant and all the little doodads have like pop-up explanations, etc., before we send them out. So it might be a week or 2 before I get to do that. So do not hesitate to ask us for specific information in the meantime, and don't hesitate to jot down 1 or 2 things as you go today. All right, here we go. Let me get the whoop. Ha, I already messed it up. See, that's why I don't do slides all the time. So Vermont and New Hampshire, our jurisdiction is both states, both sides of the river. This is where our offices are, but I will say that we are fundamentally a little bit different than NRCS or FSA in that we don't have staff that are specific to counties. You can call any one of these offices and get any one of our staff and get directed to the right person who is doing the program that you are most interested in. So don't hesitate to call any of us. Our website has sort of some centralized information, but here's where we live in our offices. The Rural Energy for America program is designed specifically for small rural businesses and then ag producers, and for 2 purposes: renewable energy development or energy efficiency. Now, what I will say is that the hope and the purpose of this is to either reduce your energy load or to replace your energy load with kilowatt hours that are coming from a renewable source. This is one of our only programs on the grant side where the eligible applicant and the beneficiary are the exact same entities. A lot of our business programs, the eligible applicant is going to be like NOFA, New Hampshire, or whomever conservation district as a service provider. But in this case, you apply as a business or farm and you are the one receiving the money, but also doing the reporting. So just be ready. In the last 10 years for us in Vermont and New Hampshire, we've done about $14.8 million of these grants and loan guarantees. What I will say is that this next year we have around $6 million. Next year we're going to have 8. Every year for the next 8.5 years under the Inflation Reduction Act, we're going to have close to quadruple the amount of money that we have had in any previous year. So this is the time. Let's get a solar panel on every farm or a biodigester in every barn or whatever you want to do. A quick look at some of the eligible activities. This is not a full and complete list, but I wanted just to give you a quick look. Solar biomass, upgrades to your existing equipment, boiler, furnace, HVAC, envelope. You can work a little bit on the envelope of a building. For maple sugar producers, we get a lot of reverse osmosis, digesters, weatherization, geothermal, etc. This is a tiny bit deeper in terms of who is eligible and what that means. So a small rural business is a definition that we get from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and we just use their definition. So you have to be in a non-metro area, you have to have fewer than 50 employees, and you have to have under $1 million in annual receipts. So these are really small businesses, right, that we're trying to reduce their costs. An ag producer is a wide range of eligible crops, livestock, forestry operation, dairy, etc. But you do have to have at least 50% of the gross income from the ag production. So if this is, so farms that have 2 or 3 off-farm jobs, which I know is a lot of them, may really have to look at that eligibility metric in terms of their gross income. Now, we do have a couple areas in New Hampshire where we are not urban technically, not rural technically. So we show this map. And again, this is why we encourage you to call, right? Because when you look at this, you know, down near Windham and Hampstead and Pelham, there are parts of that area that are eligible, but then other towns that are not. So don't trust this map. Give us a call, tell us exactly where you are, and we will take a look and see if you are inside one of the urban areas or if you are over the line and in a rural area. Now, Inflation Reduction Act, really exciting, really exciting. And I should have paused at the beginning to tell you a little bit about the Biden-Harris administration's priorities for USDA. One of our priorities is equitable access and equity within our agency. So we are trying really hard to reach people and communities that we have not brought our resources and programs to before. Part of what I really want to do over the next couple of years while I have this job is to make sure that I am introducing rural development programs to communities that have never used them. And I would love your help. If you believe there's a group of people who could benefit from something that we do, let me know and I will make some cold calls and get out on the road. The other priority is climate resilience and climate smart ag and forestry. And then the last one is really about more and better markets for our ag producers and developing a resilient and local food supply chain. So now is the time for the Food Alliance to be able to take advantage of all the things. So here we go. So under the Inflation Reduction Act in particular, a couple of changes to this program. Our energy efficiency grant totals are now $500,000 rather than $250,000. And our renewable energy development grants are now up to $1 million. So we have doubled the size of our grants, basically. Whoops. Touch screen, sorry. Used to be 25% of your total project cost could be grant eligible. We are now at 40% of your total project cost can be grant eligible. And for those of you who are tracking, I think it's March 31st, we have a REAP application open right now. It's due at the end of this month, but we are going to probably be opening them almost every quarter through the rest of this year and into next year. So don't freak out if you can't get one in by the end of the month, because I anticipate there will be probably at least 2, maybe 3 more rounds in this calendar year. Usually they've only been twice a year, April and October, and now we're going to be announcing them more frequently. All right. All right, a couple of tips and a couple of reminders about what it takes to apply to the federal government programs. Depending on the size and scale of the project that you're looking at, an energy assessment or an energy audit or a feasibility study may be necessary. These are going to be things that you would have to take on your own cost, right? But they are a part of the application and need to come into us with your application. If you are incurring those costs on your own ahead of time, ahead of the application, those are not eligible for reimbursement later on, right? So hopefully an energy audit is something you want to be able to do anyway, which is good for you and for your operation. But just know that we're not going to be able to pay you back for that cost. You are going to need a unique identity ID. This is similar to, used to be a DUNS number, SAMS number, that kind of thing. So don't hesitate to get that process started, particularly if you're an ag producer who hasn't done that yet. That will allow you to be eligible for a number of things. And then really reach out anytime and ask something similar on the residential level. Yeah, I can cover that in a minute. Reach out anytime to ask questions. Let me get through this next slide and then I'll flip to the residential question. Some of the other application requirements, we're going to need to look at your tax returns. We're going to need to look at your financial projections. Obviously, the project itself. Matching funds are important for additional points, right? That's not mandatory to have matching funds, but if you can show that you have matching funds, you get more points in the application process and your application might score higher. And then energy bills, and if your project needs it, a power purchase agreement. The next two slides are case studies. So I'm going to pause here for a second and address the question in the chat about whether or not there's an equivalent program on the residential side. So here's what's interesting about rural development's programs. We have three main departments. We have housing, community infrastructure and utilities, and then rural business and cooperative services. The business and cooperative services, this is one of our programs. And again, the design is to lower the costs for the business itself. On the housing side, we have a program for income eligible residents where they can do weatherization and they can do energy replacement. They can upgrade their HVAC system, their heating system, et cetera. It has to be pretty old and not working very well. And it has to be an upgrade that improves sort of the public health, like the livability of the building, but it does not come in a grant form. It is a loan, unless you're like 65 or older and income means tested. It is generally a loan. What I will say though, and remember I was going to tell you a little bit more about IRA programs. The biggest portion of the Inflation Reduction Act that rural development is getting, now our friends at NRCS are getting a lot more for soil conservation work, but the biggest portion that we're getting is actually going to utilities. And utilities can borrow money from us and lend it to residential and users or commercial users to do their own renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. So if we have time, I can tell you a little bit more about that as well. All right, let me get through the two case studies real quickly. Yeah, Eversource, good example. So here's a cost saving REAP grant plus bank financing. So this was a big solar project generating over 3/4 of the electricity needs of Sunset Lake Farm in Alburg, Vermont, but saving almost $40,000 a year on the energy bill. So this required a match that to do this project for them entirely, it required this match bank financing. Most of our projects in Vermont and New Hampshire don't go the route of using our loan guarantee program, but our loan guarantee program is a risk reduction program for your lender. So Charlene is on the call, and she can use as a lender our guarantee to help reduce the risk of the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund to fund a renewable energy project. And a farmer could use both our grant and then have the lender be using the loan guarantee program at the same time. So there is an ability to match those, which is exciting. All right, here's another example, Patch Forest in Lebanon, New Hampshire, part of Patch Orchards. So they had a smallish grant, but it was their second one, and it helped them to purchase the RO machine, saving about 50% of their costs in boiling down their maple sugar, right? So reverse osmosis takes out the water, right? So 50% of the fuel costs going into their maple sugar production. So again, their total project cost was almost 60,000. About 14,000 of that was the REAP grant, and then they brought in another 42,000. And with that, I'm going to leave this slide up for you to take this down, but this is the name of our energy coordinator and our specialist. So he's the guy when you have your own specific project and you're saying, I need this, but can I do that? And what do I need? And make sure you get Tracy's name and number down. So 828-6070 is sort of our energy number. And then Tracy Rexford at USDA.gov. And I'm going to pause there. I'll leave this screen up for a moment or two. And when a nonprofit in a rural area, what a great question. So here's what I will say. Nonprofits, unless they are a cooperative business model, are ineligible. So you can be a co-op and you can be eligible no matter what business model you have, co-op, nonprofit, co-op, for-profit. So a food co-op is a for-profit, and I saw Monadnock coming on, right? You all could, well, depending on whether or not you're small enough, you all could apply. A small-scale cooperative for-profit business could apply. A small-scale cooperatively owned nonprofit could also apply, but a regularly structured nonprofit is ineligible for this program. Now, let me tell you how to get around that. There are two ways that you could still use our funding as a nonprofit entity to reduce your own energy costs and or build a renewable energy project. One is through our community facilities grant. So community facilities comes under a different one of our mission areas, but as a nonprofit, you are eligible to upgrade your facility in whatever way you want. Add an elevator, add an emergency ramp, add solar panels, change your HVAC system, do an envelope upgrade, weatherization kind of things. So you can access our funding to do this. You just can't do it through REAP. However, we have had a few in the last 10 years, nonprofits or public-facing institutions like schools actually develop an LLC for the purpose of accessing this grant funding. And then the LLC leases the energy project back to the nonprofit or sells the energy back. So quick example, we had a school, thank you, Colleen. We had a school who created a LLC just for the purpose of putting solar panels on the roof of the school. The town and the school worked together to figure out how they were going to do the power purchase agreement. But basically, the LLC only exists for the purpose of selling energy directly to the school. So that's how you could do it. There are a few steps. If you want to do it that way, definitely give us a call. Matt asks, can REAP grants be combined with NRCS financial assistance? My quick answer for that is probably. Let's double check depending on what your project is. There may be sometimes two federal agencies don't like to be match funding. So there may be a restriction either from our end or from NRCS's end on this. So we can circle back to you, Matt, and get that question answered. Do you have a program for community solar to serve a rural town? Why, yes, we do, and thank you for asking. So community solar is a really, I am so excited. I think that we have the opportunity, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act, to go a lot further when it relates to how we fund community solar projects. So a couple quick examples. A community solar project could, depending on who the eligible applicant is, right? So if the eligible applicant is a utility, no problem. They can borrow our money. They can help municipalities put up community solar all through their service area. That's easy to do if you are a utility. Now, in my experience in Vermont and New Hampshire, the utility companies, except for the big ones like Eversource or Green Mountain Power on this side of the river, they don't have the capacity, like our smaller scale utilities don't have the capacity to manage these projects on behalf of their electricity users. So depending on where you live, the utility may not be the best eligible applicant. A municipality itself could apply. This would probably be through our rural utility service. And they could install something, but they would have to be involved in that energy purchase somehow, right? So in some cases, we do have municipal utility entities, and the town could apply and then add in that local generation. But, and Virginia, I think I saw that you're with the Conservation Law Fund. So this is the part that I am really excited about. And I know that New Hampshire has a couple of projects with their resident-owned communities in manufactured housing communities. That's where I really see the next level of doing community solar that we could do at small scale. Those entities, ROCs, are cooperatively owned. So they could apply to REAP if they have fewer than 50 employees and under $1 million in annual receipts. Right now, a resident-owned community in New Hampshire could apply directly to our REAP program. And that has been part of my outreach, is working with ROC New Hampshire and other folks at Charlene's shop to make sure that we understand exactly how that could work. Owning that and managing that is tricky, right? It's like owning your own community wastewater system if you've never had it before. So, but quick answer is yes. Long answer is yes. We have things you can do for community solar. Cooperative is the same size as a small business under the Small Business Administration. So fewer than 50 employees and less than $1 million in annual receipts. Caitlin says, anyway, transportation and vehicles would be eligible. So not yet. These are not yet eligible under REAP. Could they be in future during the Inflation Reduction Act sort of time period? That would be an incredible opportunity for you all right now to speak to your congressional delegation, because the Farm Bill is up for reauthorization, to ask them to include the eligible activity of electric chargers or electric vehicles. Now, here's what I will tell you. And this is something I've actually asked. Process sounds complicated. All right, Peter, I'll get to your question in just a second. This is something I've actually asked our leadership. Right now, the REAP reporting, when you report back to us, you have to tell us what your BTU or kilowatt hour savings are, right? And how much that reduces your costs. What we do not yet have is a category in which you can tell us what your miles per gallon replaced by electricity is. So it would require a tweak to the program, which would be really a change in the Farm Bill. However, again, we do have other programs that fund chargers, and even other programs through which a small business could get an electric vehicle. It's just not this one. This one would be the logical one, but it's not this one. How does a small farm figure out how to navigate the process? It's a great question. So quick answer is, first, just call us. Call Tracy and say, send me the application materials, send me what I need to know, walk me through it, right? But the second question, and it's actually one of my questions for all of you in my Q&A, is who are the technical service providers who you lean on, who you rely on to help you with things like business plans in New Hampshire? And do you have enough of them? And if you don't have enough of them, how can we help? Because often there are folks who can help you with grant writing. There are energy auditors out there who would help you And in some cases, those energy auditors are paid for by state government or federal government to support energy audits to then advance, energy efficiency or cost reduction and carbon savings. So call us first, Peter, if you want to try to tackle this, and we can walk you through it. But then the second is, if there is a TA provider like someone through NOFA or UNH Extension who you're regularly working with them a little bit to help you navigate that is the next step. Custer's office, community projects, mostly going for hard infrastructure.
Sarah.
Yes.
Nicole. I just wanted to, I'm trying to type your question into the chat for folks that receive information better that way. You asked, who are the technical service providers that you rely on? Is it essentially for what? Will you say that second part again?
Sure. If you are a farm or an ag producer and you have worked with a TA provider for a business plan, a feasibility study, or helping you to do a grant application, I would love to know if you feel like those folks are readily available in New Hampshire, or whether we need more of them, right? There are a lot of TA providers who support the ag community, but I don't know if farmers feel like there are enough of them out there. So that was really my question is the TA provider, technical assistance provider ecosystem robust enough? Yeah.
And I'm gonna, Sarah, I put a couple of your sort of straightforward questions into a poll just to get a quick read from the group.
Cool.
And then I thought they can answer your question. I put it in the chat as well. Is that okay if I launch the poll?
Sure, unless, is this the time for folks to ask me questions, or is this the time for me for us?
Yeah, I think what we can I think it's kind of flowing nice. I think everyone's asking great questions. I appreciate all those in the chat. I know Sarah's loving them. So let's keep doing that. But I wanted to point to our agenda. The goal is to kind of reverse our Q&A a little bit and Sarah has some questions for us here in New Hampshire, just about our questions, what we need, what kind of information can be helpful to us in getting help from these programs, getting into part of these programs. So we'll flop back and forth. Nicole's going to open up that poll, which I think is a great way to get the
That'd be great.
flowing on that.
And then if there are repeats of things that I skimmed through in the presentation that someone wants me to spend a little more time on, I can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could, while folks are taking the poll, I could tell you a little bit about the utility programs that are coming through the Inflation Reduction Act. So just so you know, particularly to the questions about community solar and about charging stations and electric vehicles, the logic behind putting those as eligible activities under utilities is because they can actually track usage across a network of chargers, or they could track replacement of energy that they would otherwise be providing, elsewhere. And the utilities can relend. They receive money from us at 0% interest, and they can relend up to 5% interest to commercial or municipal or residential electricity users. So it really would be a pretty low interest loan. There is a new eligible category for that money, which is green banks. So Charlene in particular, we should chat a little bit more about whether or not you all want to be eligible for some of these lending programs.
All right, we're seeing some great, everyone's getting a chance to answer these poll questions, which is awesome.
Yeah, this is cool.
Let's see, people are still answering. So the two questions for those is, do you have access to or know of the right consultants to help with your renewable energy project design? And right now it's saying no. 79% says no.
That's important.
Yes. And then the second question, would it be beneficial to host a workshop on the grant details? And 89 are saying yes, please, which is great.
Good.
Awesome information to have. Let's see, looking to the chat here. Kyle, you are absolutely welcome to unmute and ask a question and make a statement. Either one.
Yeah. Just a quick statement on the second question, because I think it's hard. There's kind of like a yes, but no. I don't know if it's a dichotomy of the two answers, because I think, yes, it's helpful to have some instruction on these grant applications. And a lot of the programming we've been doing that brings up grants, the ability to do the grant, I wouldn't say is like necessarily the tip of the iceberg or like the big halting point. I think it's like the availability of time. It's a huge investment to do these grants, which I think has been a real struggle for some of our small farmers. And then knowing that by investing the time, it will be fruitful in the end. I think a few of our small farmers, who are a lot that we interact with at NOFA, have been sort of let down by not getting access to the funds. So now they've invested time and they don't reap the rewards. So a lot of it is like assurances on like, how do I know I can get this? Maybe not necessarily the technical of when to apply, what do you need? It's like, how do I guarantee success? And then who can help me? Yes, with just the ability to put this together, this grant, provide not necessarily the technical service on how to write a grant, but the technical service on, let me walk with you through the whole process and use some of my time to help you with your lack of time. So is what I've seen and what I've felt with a lot of our recent access to funding through the IRA. So
that's really helpful, Kyle. And I agree with you. I mean, I get it, right? Like the interesting thing for me as a person is that I have come to USDA Rural Development having been an applicant first. So I applied to rural business development grants and I applied to community facilities grants and I got turned down lots of times, and I had to deal with the reporting requirements. Federal funding is not simple or easy or quick. And I think that is my main message. It is a process, and it's a commitment of like a relationship with the federal government. Now, what I will also say, though, is that New Hampshire is actually better at using our REAP funding than Vermont is. You all have done a better job using this, and farmers have done a better job using this than your colleagues across the river. So even though there are folks who maybe have been turned down, I will say that overall, we've had quite a lot of success in New Hampshire with this program. What I will say is that what's happening right now is that our pipeline and the amount of money we are being allocated is going like this. So if anybody got turned down before, now is the time to pick up that application from a year ago and dust it off and try a second time, because we have literally quadruple the money, right? And we want to be getting it all out the door and into folks' hands. But I hear you. There's not a lot I can do in terms of the amount of time it takes. And I apologize for that. Again, having been a grantee, I get it. And the only thing I can say as a federal employee now is that the reason it is so complex is the burden of it being taxpayer dollars from other people's wallets all across the country, and that the federal government doesn't let us play fast and loose with taxpayer money. So that's the best excuse I can give you, but it's only an excuse, and I apologize. All right, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a good discussion to have, and one that I keep telling the farmers all the time. We've got money, or we hear, like they all hear, like we've got money.
Yeah.
And yes, all of us just like assuring them that it can be fruitful, but then helping them with just the process. Because you even mentioned another one, the reporting at the end. They may not even be taking that into account, but it's a huge time investment to get the money.
Yes.
So they need a lot of support.
Yes, that's right. I see Peter's hand up, and I see a couple of questions in the chat. So Peter, let's go to you first, and then we'll go back.
So I'm a state representative on the Environment and Agriculture Committee.
Thank you.
We got a bill this term that was trying to create a task force to help get better access to REAP funding and other sorts of energy funding. And the task force was not a very well designed way to actually get it to people. So because it's basically having another group of people sitting in a room talking is not going to help a farmer find the time to do an application. We retained the bill, and I did a bunch of calling around to find out what sort of technical support was available for farmers to do this. And the general answer I got was, I don't know, maybe ask someone else. And
Yikes.
I asked at Cooperative Extension, and they said, we don't have anyone now, other than one part-time person who does it as a sort of a smaller portion of his retirement project. But they are interested in possibly getting a field specialist position for that if we can get them the money to do it. And so we retained the bill, and we're going to put that in next year as a request for that field specialist position. So the time frame on that is, it's going to be probably another year before that person is up and running.
Sure.
But so I'm wondering, are there ways that people can get some sort of technical support before then, because the money is available now? Are there, So I guess it would be nice to have technical support before this comes through. I'm hoping that we can get this to get through the legislature next year and actually create that position. But once again, there's no guarantees.
There's no guarantees. Exactly. So Peter, let me answer that in two ways. That's a terrific question. Number one, I'm already seeing in the chat, folks are saying conservation districts could help us write grants, regional planning commissions. Number one, I feel like maybe a product that could come out of this conversation is where do you go for help with grant writing if you are a farmer document? And literally you are listing the existing entities who have this as a part of their activities that they do over the course of a year. But the second piece that I think is really important is that we provide technical assistance funding, and often that technical assistance funding can be used directly to promote a program and to help do grant writing for a program like REAP. So I'm going to take 2 quick seconds. I know Jeff has a question, and there are 3 questions now in the chat. But I'm going to take 2 quick seconds to tell you about our TA funding. One chunk of TA funding is called an Energy Audit and Renewable Energy Development Assistance Program, EAREDA program. Of course, it has to be an acronym, Energy Audit Program. This is funding that can go to a municipality, go to a nonprofit, go to a service provider, go to a regional planning commission, et cetera, go to a government. It could go to Josh, it could go to you guys. You guys could hire somebody to do energy audits for farmers, right? State government could use this funding. It is designed for the technical side of the auditing and the renewable energy project development. The other grant application that anyone in New Hampshire could submit to us is a rural business development grant application. And they could apply to us and say, what I want to do with my rural business development grant application is target farmers and help them reduce their energy bills. And I'm going to do that. And I will bring USDA a pipeline of REAP applicants, and I will help them write their applications. And that's my rural business development service activity. So NOFA could apply for that. UNH Extension could apply for that. And if you have this specialist position you are trying to fund through state legislature, this program, RBDG, could be a match program for your specialists, for your state funds. Okay, I'm going to pause on that, but Peter, don't hesitate to come chat with me later about that funding as well and how we could work. Okay, I'm going to Colleen, go through I think there are a couple quick questions I could answer, and then Jeff, I'll come to you. Is bank financing challenging to get for small farmers and businesses? In general, Gina, I'd say yes, but it really depends on who the lender is. There are some excellent ag lenders in New Hampshire who understand farm businesses and seasonality and a lot of that sort of thing. If the energy audit is required for, I'm skipping over your one about percentage of REAP funding not used in Vermont, because I would have to look that up. If the energy audit is required for the grant, is that being used to establish an energy baseline for your project or as guidance for the grant? Technical service folks who need to help with these needs prior to writing the grant, is that kind of the idea? Also, time commitments, not easy to free up time. Agreed. Okay. So if the energy audit is required for the grant, it is the baseline for your project. It is then what we look for to track your BTUs over the course of the grant funding. So you would say, this is what my BTU savings are going to be, and here's my performance during reporting. So it is actually truly helps to sort of write the grant itself, or helps as the baseline to the grant itself. I'm going to go to Jeff.
So I wanted to actually answer a couple of the questions. So we got a REAP grant about 4 years ago.
Hey,
with solar panels
thank
on
you
our
for
barn.
applying.
Thank you for giving us the money. And Revision helped us do this. So our solar company helped us write the grant. And obviously we had to do parts of that, but they helped us with that. So that's one option, is instead of trying to find some third party, your solar installer might have the capacity to do that for you. And Northeast Credit Union is great. That's we ended up doing our loan with to pay for the other parts of it. Not Northeast Credit Union, Farm Credit East was who we used for that. So I would encourage folks to contact Farm Credit East. And then my actual question was, so our house and barn are, I don't know why they're separate. When we moved in, the barn didn't have electricity, and so it has its own panel and it's connected to, so it's not on the same bill as our house. But they are pooled together for the sake of our solar power and all that. So when we put up our solar panel, it was built based on and sort of rated based on how much electricity we were using then, which was quite a while ago. And since then, a lot of refrigeration and electricity and irrigation has been added. So now we would like to, in our best case scenario, now put some more panels either on this wash stand structure we put up or on our house itself. And just wondering if that's allowed. Is it pretty common for people to go back to REAP multiple times? Is it that, taking our house electricity usage into account, is that appropriate? Or is that something we should steer clear from?
2 questions, 2 answers. And if you want to send me your, the details of your project, I'll put you in as the case study next time. So quick answer about coming back to REAP. Absolutely. Come on back. We want 3rd and 4th and 5th times. And especially if you are then familiar with how to apply, right? You become sort of one of those peer network folks that other farmers could lean on, because it has become more regular for you, even though it's harder for people who are doing it the first time. So please do come back and apply again. The only time we would take house energy usage into account is if the energy usage is tied together with the barn or the wash station. So probably, and I don't know the specifics, but probably it would be ineligible to just put panels on your house. Probably you would, if they are actually separately metered. If they are metered together, then ancillary benefit going to your house, fine. But if they're metered separately, probably not. So it would probably be the wash station that you should focus on. All right. I love the tip about revision. That's great.
All right, folks. We've about 10 more minutes in our time here together. I urge everyone to keep putting questions in the chat if they have them, and keep raising your hand and coming off mute and asking questions. Let's see, Matt's putting a great resource in the chat. Thank you, Matt.
Crazy.
Yeah. Sarah, you had 2 more questions. And we
for my questions.
Yeah.
I did.
So if you want to, we can kind of try and at least get through one of those more. I think that maybe the the materials questions, or actually they're both.
Oh, I
really-
was thinking the technology
choose.
question.
Either
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
either
yeah,
one's
yeah.
good.
Let me answer Janice's question first. Yes, storage is an eligible activity. And yep, Nicole just posted my 2 questions. One was about specific materials for REAP. I mean, it sounds to me like, you know, Colleen and Nicole, if there was a way to get service providers and the activities they do listed and published, that might be a great, and we'd be happy to work with you on that if you wanted. But if there's anything else, after you take a look at our website that you really think we should post on our website, let us know. And then technologies. REAP is used often for solar, right? Sometimes it is hard to get a small scale digester. It's hard to get wind. It's a different, people are most familiar with solar. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, there is actually a $300 million set aside for underutilized technologies. So part of the reason I'm asking all of you is because many of you who are on the ground or on farm right now may be experimenting with kinds of energy efficiency or renewable energy technologies that are not that common. So I would love to hear about that if anyone has specific technologies other than solar. How do we access the application? I'll put it in the chat here.
Sarah, it's Nicole. I just want to add that in New Hampshire, we recently have the UNH extension developed the New Hampshire Farm Network, which is a network of ag service providers. And so maybe I will talk with them and figure out between the Food Alliance and their work, the best place for that. I think it's a great idea.
Great.
Yeah, so if folks have answers to either of Sarah's questions, put it in the chat and we can kind of discuss as they come in, or you're welcome to, again, raise your hand and come off mute and share any ideas that you had.
Would a smaller water power generator below a dam count as an alternative? Probably. That would be really cool to see some water power projects. I have to tell you, I grew up with a stream running through our property, and my dad was always experimenting with water wheels and like the size and scale and plywood versus 2x4s. We had a lot of smashed up water wheels in my stream when I was a kid. Okay, let's see. Not sure if they are on this point yet. Walden Mutual. Yep, another new bank. Yeah. Specific for supporting farms and farmers. I put in the tab. Not sure how this fits in. One issue for maple producers and others is intermittent loads with demand charges. Is there technology? That is a good question. I don't know. That would be, I'd turn it back to the technical people in the room for that.
All right. Well, we have a few more minutes, and I definitely don't want to cut us short, because I think this time of open questions is great. So like I said, continue to be thinking of things you can ask Sarah or things you just want to bring up and discuss. And
I mean, I'm thinking about the comment that Kyle made, and someone else, seconded it about the amount of time it takes. And I wonder if one of the interesting, models for how to get more people to be able to access this. And I will say, this is a capacity is always a challenge with our grants, whether it is an individual farmer, whether it is a small town that has no paid staff, right? Or whether it's a low income resident who's trying to buy their home for the first time and has no idea how to start. But I wonder about like REAP grant writing workshops, or what I mean by that is like, bring your application, bring your project, and we all sit down in a room and we fill out the paperwork together. You know what I mean? Like there may be a way to flip the time on its head by doing a group grant writing activity in the middle of February when it's cold outside, and you go somewhere and everybody brings their application and their own project, and you have one of us or you have a couple TA providers in the room to be answering questions as you go, and then you save time because you're all doing it together at once, Anyway, I don't know. I'm just trying to get creative.
I love that idea. Does anyone else have reactions to it? You can use the chat or unmute.
Sarah,
If you
Sarah's
didn't have
gonna
to
love it. It's like a grant write-a-thon. Like those
Write-a-thon, there you
haul-a-thons.
go. A
Right.
reap, a reap
And we could do
write-a-thon.
it, we could have a couple different ones if we got a space with
Yeah.
multiple rooms. So you could
Totally.
go, it could be like an
You
annual
go to
thing.
NRCS
we
over
do.
there, you could do reap over here, value-added producer. Yeah, exactly.
Well, where that could also save time is just make sure that people are allocating the time to things that they need, and instead of diving in massive amount of research and finding
Exactly.
out where they need to start, they're just, it is efficient
It's
time.
efficient. Yeah. I mean, that's what farmers are all about. And,
Farmers do
and,
like efficiency. That's true.
yeah. And it would then, if some of our staff or other service providers were in the room, you could handle, it's be like a teacher. You could walk around and answer everybody's individual questions. It would
Mhm.
save time on our end too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and
Oh.
just, sorry, I was just gonna say, to think about it from a different approach, like somebody like NOFA would be happy to show up there too. It's coordinated and be a helpful source as well. Like, it might be hard for us to coordinate that and put that together and have the pool. That's something that the USDA does, but if inviting other nonprofits to be there and
Hey.
assist.
We're happy to co-host with everybody. I love that idea, Kyle. I will also say there was one. Oh, if the person from Texas is still on the call, this program is also open in Texas, and there's an energy coordinator in Texas, and happy to send you, if you want to shoot me an email, happy to send you that direct person's email if you want to do this program in your own state. Sorry about British Columbia. Can't help you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your information too, Sarah. So I think that we'll try and close out for the day unless anyone has anything else they want to share or talk about. As Sarah said, she's always available, and her team at Rural Development is available for questions, phone calls, all that good stuff. And my colleague Nicole has put in our chat here our evaluation for today. This evaluation is super helpful for us as the Food Alliance to make sure these programs are useful and helpful, and it's a place for you to really be a part of this process of, you know, creating space and learning together. So please take that before you jump off. And yeah, if there's not anything else, I will award you 3 minutes of your day back.
Thank you
all.
so much, Sarah. That was really fascinating and informative. And thank you all who participated, and also Sarah for joining us.
It's always fun to hang out in New Hampshire digitally. So anytime you let me know.
Next time you get to come visit us.
Yeah, absolutely. That
If we
too.
plan a workshop, she'll come.
Yeah.
I do like
All right.
workshops. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Take care.
All right. Bye.